Hello and welcome or welcome back. I hope you have been doing well. I guess we're still in the middle of a massive heat wave where I currently live, and for a number of days this past week it has been in the triple digits. So I figured it was time I should probably do a summer TBR video. I like to do one of these TBR videos every season, sort of telling you about books that I have my eye on, books that I feel like I'm currently drawn to read that might feel appropriate for the upcoming season or the season that we're in. And so today is going to be the summer one. As you might be able to see, I have quite a stack of books next to me, and that is because I feel really compelled to dig into a good stack of books recently. I've really been enjoying short books. You'll see a number of short little paperbacks on this stack. A good number of these are books that I have picked up recently and have just really been rearing to read. So without further ado, let's get on into this stack, shall we? Starting off, we have a book that I've been asked to review by one of you. This is Detransition Baby by Torrey. It's one that I picked up a copy of recently. This first came out in 2021, and it is reportedly a, quote, whip-smart debut about three women, transgender and cisgender, whose lives collide after an unexpected pregnancy forces them to confront their deepest desires around gender, motherhood, and sex. So I feel like there has been a lot of hype around this book. I don't know too many details other than that, but I'm excited to dig my teeth into it and eventually get up a review of this book for you all. Next, I'm really looking forward to picking up Lote by Shola von Reinhold. This is a book that I picked up immediately after hearing about it on M's channel. I believe this is a debut novel. I feel like based on the description, there is likely a lot going on in this book, but a lot of it sounds like it is up my alley. A quote from the description says, "From champagne theft and black modernisms to art sabotage, alchemy, and a lotus-eating proto-luxury communist cult." Say that 10 times fast. Mathilda, our protagonist, escapes through modes of aesthetic expression and leads herself to question the convoluted ways truth is made and obscured. Sounds like we have art, history, queerness, aesthetics. So really looking forward to getting to this one this summer. So far I've read two of Francois Sagan's books, her first two I believe, and really enjoyed them. This is The Still Storm by her, and it originally came out in 1984, 30 years into her publishing career, so I'm interested to see what her writing, if it's evolved, what her writing style is like sort of later on in her career. We're apparently following an aristocratic woman who comes back to her family house, her family land holdings, and shatters all social propriety when she falls hopelessly in love with a celebrated but peasant poet from her hometown. Knowing Sagan, some sort of bittersweet or a full-on tragic series of events is about to unfold, and I'm curious to see how I find her in this later book. One of the short books on this TBR, and also you might see a theme of essay collections, shorter books pertaining to artists and writing, and this is one of those. This is Amina Cain's A Horse at Night on Writing. This was really popular on my sort of little niche of booktube a few years ago, and I had sort of bookmarked it to pick up, and I picked up a copy for myself recently. This is apparently a meditation on life and literature. It's reportedly a series of essayistic inquiries come together to form a sustained meditation on writers and their works, on the spaces of reading and writing fiction and how those spaces take shape inside a life, which just sounds right up my alley at the moment. Really looking forward to digging my teeth into this one. Similarly, we have an essay collection that I picked up recently. This is the Unreality of Memory and Other Essays by Elisa Gabbery. This came out in 2020, and it is reportedly a collection of provocative and searching essays on disaster culture, climate anxiety, and our mounting sense of collective doom, which feels very apt to read in this moment in time. I'm currently filming in July of 2024. In this new collection, acclaimed poet and essayist Elisa Gabbery explores our obsessions with disasters past and future. These deeply researched prophetic meditations question how the world will end, if indeed it will, and why we can't stop fantasizing about it. Next on the slim volume pile, we have The Vagabond by Colette. This was first published in 1910 by Colette. Ever since watching the biopic film about Colette that came out few years ago now with Keira Knightley as Colette. Definitely been wanting to pick up something by Colette. I have a bind-up of the Claudine series that sort of launched her writing career on my shelf, and I might also pick that up this summer as well and try out the first one, but figured I also really wanted to pick up this because it sounds like, based on what I have read about Colette's life, a number of the themes and plot points in this book sound sort of aligned with her own experience, which I find fascinating. This book is apparently following a 30-year-old recently divorced Renee Nere, who has begun a life of her own, supporting herself as a music hall artist. Maxime, a rich and idle bachelor, intrudes on her independent existence and offers his love and the sort of social comforts of being in a marriage. Renee ends up going away for a time on tour with the theater group that she's in and is able to put some distance between herself and this new suitor. Renee wrestles to resolve the struggle between her need to be loved and her need to have a life and work of her own, which sounds really up my alley. Next, we have this beautiful edition of Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. This originally came out in 1966. This is Rhys's famous, yes, I suppose considered to be a modern classic, shedding light on a very famous and mysterious character in literature, the Mad Woman in the Attic from Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. This is set in the Caribbean, and its heroine, Antoinette Cosway, is a sensual and very sheltered and protected young woman who is sold into marriage to the very prideful Mr. Rochester. Rhys portrays a society so driven by hatred, so skewed in its sexual relations, that it can literally drive a woman out of her mind. And actually, you might be able to see on this really lovely cover, have the image of a burning house in the background, sort of foreshadowing for some of the events that happen in Jane Eyre. Next, I have To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. This originally was published in 1927. I don't know much about the plot of this book. All I know is that I really enjoy Virginia Woolf's writing, and that in this book we are following a family on holiday in the Isle of Skye. I have heard that the female matron in this book is sort of an homage to Woolf's own mother and her grief in losing her. We'll see how that plays out in this book. Next, I have Even Cowgirls Get the Blues by Tom Robbins. This came out in 1976. I originally picked up mainly for the title, and after having glanced at the description and having it mention it following a number of cowgirls on a road trip, I was sold. The reader is drawn along on a tragicomic joyride across the badlands of sexuality, wild rivers of language, and the frontiers of the mind. So I have not heard many people talk about this book. Let me know if you have read it in the comments. Not entirely sure what to anticipate, but apprehensively hopeful with this one. This is The Wall by Marlen Haushofer. Apologies for mispronouncing that if I did. My copy is translated from the German by Shaun Whiteside. This was originally published, I believe, in East Germany in 1963, correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently it follows a woman who, while vacationing alone in the Austrian mountains, wakes up one morning to find herself mysteriously separated from the rest of the world by an invisible wall. With a cat, a dog, and a cow as her sole companions, she learns to survive and cope with her loneliness. Allegorical, yet deeply personal and absorbing, The Wall is at once a critique of modern civilization, a nuanced and loving portrait of a relationship between a woman and her animals, and a thrilling survival story, a Cold War-era dystopian adventure, and a truly singular feminist classic. This is also one that I saw circulating on my little niche of booktube, I think a year or two ago, and I had wanted to pick it up, so here it is. Next in line on the feminist, subversive adventure kind of a story, we have Sub Rosa by Amber Dawn. This came out in 2010, and in this, apparently, Amber Dawn is subverting the classic Hero's Quest adventure to create a dark post-feminist vision of it, which is really all I needed to read before I wanted to pick this book up and add it to my summer TBR. We'll report back on this one for sure. Another book that I picked up somewhat recently that has remained sort of front and center in my mind is The Plague by Albert Camus. This was first published in 1947 and is apparently a gripping tale of unrelieved human horror, of survival, of resilience, and of the ways in which humankind confronts death, which some people might hear that description and wonder why the heck are you picking that up in general, but as a summer read, well, let me tell you, I am a blast at parties, and also I've really been wanting to pick up something by Camus for quite a while. One, just to try out the existentialist novel, but also because I've heard that Camus and his work was very influential in a lot of the American student civil rights protests in the 1960s. Quotes from this book are mentioned. For that reason, I'm curious to pick it up as well. Another short but likely quite powerful book, we have Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I've been telling myself for months and months that I really want to pick this book up, and I really want to pick this book up, so I'm putting it on this TBR pile. This is James Baldwin, sort of seminal queer classic that came out in 1956. It's set in 1950s Paris with American expats, secret liaisons, violence, and we're following a young man who finds himself caught between his own desire wrestling with his own homosexuality and the conventional morality of the day. I'm always deeply moved and blown away whenever I have heard James Baldwin speak, so I have been really wanting to meet him on the page. And this one is definitely top of the list as far as the TBR goes for this summer. This one is a newer release that came out last year in 2023. This is Chain Gang Allstars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is a speculative near future dystopia. We're following two top female gladiators fight for their freedom within a depraved private prison system that is not too far removed from America's own. I have heard really good things about this. It also includes a number of maybe footnotes and notes referencing aspects of this book that are based in the reality of the American prison industrial complex. My guess is that this book and its narrative and its characters are a commentary on that, so looking forward to picking this one up this summer. Another one on the short paperback stack. This is Lucky Breaks by, I'm going to butcher these names, I do apologize, Yevgenia Belorusets, and it is translated from the Ukrainian by Eugene, Ostashevsky. This came out in 2019. This is apparently a very powerful series of offbeat short stories. Are they short stories? Because they're based off of real people. Vignettes, character studies about women living under the shadow of war in Ukraine. This is set in the coal mining region of the Donbass in Ukraine. Each of these stories is accompanied by a photograph relating to the story, relating to the woman's experience. I picked this up, I believe, in 2019 when it first came out, and I've been meaning to read it ever since, and I feel like now is the time. All This Could Be Different by Sarah Thankam Matthews. This came out 2 years ago in 2022. Graduating into the long maw of an American recession, Sneha, I believe that's how you say the protagonist's name, is one of the fortunate ones. She's moved to Milwaukee for an entry-level corporate job that, grueling as it may be, is the key that unlocks every door. She can pick up the tab at dinner with her new friend Tig, get her college buddy Tom hired alongside her, and send money home to her parents in India. She begins dating women, soon developing a burning crush on Marina, a beguiling and beautiful dancer who always seems just out of reach. But before long, trouble arrives. Painful secrets rear their heads, jobs go off the rails, evictions loom. Sneha struggles to be truly close and open with anybody, even as her friendships deepen, even as she throws herself headlong into a dizzying romance with Marina. It's then that Tig begins to draw up a radical solution to their problems, hoping to save them all. Contemporary literary fiction books, which I'm guessing this is, aren't always up my alley, but this one definitely felt like it could be, so I wanted to pick it up. I also have the very well-known My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante on this TBR. I think this was also on my spring TBR, but I didn't end up getting to it, so I'm moving it to my summer TBR. I feel like so many people I know have read and raved about this book. It is a booktube darling, so I will not talk about it too much more because I really don't have very much to say about it, not having read it. But yeah, really hoping to get to this one this summer as well. Last of the super slim paperbacks, this is A Spy in the House of Love by Anais Nin. This is another recent purchase of mine. I've been wanting to dip my toe into Anais Nin for a couple of years now. She is a very controversial, intriguing person. A lot of her work deals with sexuality, with taboo topics. I can't remember off the top of my head when this book was originally published. I didn't write it down. I think it was either in the 40s or the 50s. Based on what I've heard about her work, a lot of it was likely ahead of her time. We have a heroine in this book who is deeply divided between her own desire to explore her creativity, her sexuality, and the social constraints and expectations of the society that she lives in. So we'll see how I find this one. And then we have Blackouts by Justin Torres. This came out last year in 2023. This is a queer literary fiction, speculative fiction type of book. It is apparently a work of fiction that sees through the inventions of history and narrative. The past is with us, beside us, ahead of us. What are we to create from its gaps and erasures? It insists that we look long and steady at the world we have inherited and the world we have made, a world full of ghostly shadows and flashing moments of truth. I have heard pretty much nothing but good things about this book. The premise and the description of it really sound like they're up my alley, so I really wanted to add this one to my summer TBR because I really would like to get to it soon here. And that is it, my friends. Those are the 20 books that are currently on my summer TBR. I do hope to get to all of them. We'll see if I do. Please let me know if you have read any of them down in the description, what your thoughts were on them. Also, let me know what your plans are for your summer reading this year. Are there any books that you're really excited to get to? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. But with that, my cat is very hungry and wants her dinner, so I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.